Pete is the editor of the Times-Union sports section, also their outstanding columnist, and he joins us here every Monday morning on Big Board Sports. Good morning, Pete.
Hey, Roger. How are you?
We're not quite as good as your boy Pete Doherty, because he's actually right now playing the Masters golf course.
And he also had a pretty good view yesterday of the amazing finish.
He no doubt did, and we have him on coming up. Must Listen Radio, little appointment radio for our listeners. Pete Doherty at the Masters yesterday. His thoughts on Sergio and everyone else coming up at the top of the hour at 11. What were your thoughts when Sergio won this thing? Were you happy for him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think probably everybody was happy for him. The funny thing was, I thought at the end of on the final hole of regulation when he missed the putt, I thought, oh, geez, it's got to be really hard mentally now for him to turn around and come back and win a playoff hole. But he did, and his second shot on both 18 on the final round of regulation and then in the playoff hole. It was amazing because when they went to the playoff hole, I thought he's never going to be able to replicate the incredible position he put himself in with his second shot at the end of regulation, and then he did it again in the playoff hole.
Yeah, as soon as Rose hit the bad tee shot, I'm like, mentally now, you go, okay, my buddy here, my buddy's in a lot of trouble here at 18. I got to make a couple of good shots here, and the door is wide open for me to win this. And then when that approach on the playoff hole, he hit like an 8-iron in, knocked it in there pretty good, 15 feet, and then just a 2-putt, he's going to win this thing. I felt like that was his opportunity, and finally Petey takes advantage, because there are so many times. I mean, somebody said to me even on Friday, hey, what do you think of Sergio Garcia winning this thing? And I'm like, he's not winning this thing. He never does. I mean, that was my response.
You always kind of just miss his name at every major, right? Like, oh, no, he's not going to.
Nah, he's playing well right now. Yeah, I know he's right in the hunt. He'll figure out a way to blow it. And for whatever reason, Chris Iorizzo, this year, he didn't figure out a way to blow it.
Yeah, Pete, and I know we're going to ask Pete Doherty the same question here, but are you in the camp of, hey, good to see Sergio win? We know some of the backstory and comments he's made regarding Tiger Woods' Champions Dinner and just kind of the love-hate that goes on every Ryder Cup between Sergio and the U.S. fans in terms of, I guess, in your mind, validating his career. How far does this go?
I think it goes a long way, because otherwise I think ultimately at the end of his career, you look at it and just call him, you put him on the list of best players never to have won a major. Maybe he'd be the number one. Maybe he would be the best player never to have won a major. And I think now, obviously, he's got that monkey off his back. He's starting to remind me of where Phil Mickelson was at, 12, 13 years ago, where, it was like every year the storyline was, is Phil finally going to win a major? And the floodgates sort of opened for Phil after that, so maybe they will for Sergio too. But now I'm not sure who gets that who gets the torch pass now as far as that goes. Best player never to have won one.
It's early on, baseball season, just in its first week. We now turn to week number 2. Your thoughts of what you've seen so far, Pete, from the regional teams of interest, and in particular the Yankees. And I know you're a Mets fan.
Yeah, and as a Mets fan, obviously I was happy to see Syndergaard pitch well last night, especially with Flisters obviously seems like a minor thing, but whenever it comes to the Mets and pitching, every little thing you sort of worry. And Matt's already having issues, so it was nice to see Syndergaard come back and pitch well right now. If you're going to have a concern about the Mets, maybe it's that their offense seems a little reliant on the home run ball here in the early going. But overall, as a Mets fan, I think you still have a lot of reasons to be excited about the season ahead.
And I thought the biggest thing coming out of the weekend with the Yankees, the injury to Gary Sanchez, which I watched it. I was watching the game, and I'm like, what just happened? And it doesn't sound like much, Pete, but the strained bicep could keep you out for quite some time. Yeah,
that definitely does seem like one of those injuries that, it's not only the time on the disabled list, but then how long is it going to be a nagging issue for him? Is it going to be one of those things where we're still talking about this in July?
We could be. I hope not that long. I mean, I may be maybe a little over the top with how serious this injury can be. But you see these hamstring injuries that linger forever and forever, and you go, really, it's just a hamstring injury, but it's only a strained bicep. But they do have their way of keeping you out of the lineup for longer than the average Joe thinks that it should. I will say this, Pete, it did happen early in the season, so it is early, but I think it's really important for the Yankees with this young team to get off to a good start. Right now, they do sit at 2-4 going into the home opener today against the Rays.
Yeah, like you had said earlier, Roger, I just don't see the margin of error being particularly big for this team. You have to wonder, are they good enough to, have a bad April and overcome that? It's funny. I think the expectations for the Yankees and the young team that they are, a lot of them I think are shaped by the end of last season, and a lot of people feeling like, geez, what would happen if they had just played the kids all along? If they had gone to the younger players a little bit earlier last season, would they have been, a stronger wild card contender? But I'm not sure. As young as they are, I'm not sure how it's totally realistic it is to look at the Yankees as a playoff team this year. To me, it seems like they might be a year away from that.
Hey, Pete, I ask you one more question because my colleague here, Chris Iorizzo, said earlier in the show already that if he had to pick one pitcher to start one game right now, in a big spot, one pitcher in the entire Major League Baseball landscape, he would go with Noah Syndergaard. You're a Mets fan. What do you think of that?
As a Mets fan, I'm not going to disagree with them. Yeah, sounds good to me.
I like his mental makeup, Pete. I mean, just the comments when he was 22 years old or whatever it was a couple of years ago against the Royals. I like obviously just his imposing nature on the mound. 6'6", throws 98. He's got a changeup now that is nasty, and the two seam is something new in his arsenal. I don't know. To me, he's as good of a big game pitcher out there, and I think he might be my guy.
Yeah, and already has postseason experience too, and has already pitched well in the postseason. So it's not like you're making that call on talent and raw ability alone. A guy who has already proven himself to be a capable big game pitcher.
Well, I think the Yankees have three of them, or the Mets rather. They got three good ones. It would be, DeGrom wouldn't be a bad choice either, and if Matt Harvey is right, he wouldn't be a bad choice either. That's why this Mets team is so loaded with three just phenomenal starters at the top of their order. Pete, always a pleasure on the Monday morning show. We thank you, and we'll talk to you this time next week.
All right, thanks, guys.